Hey guys, it's Christian from Lost in Discovery. Welcome back to my series where we are trying to hunt down the ending for the entire Stormlight Archive. Let's do it. Okay, so last week I pitched to you the idea that it is possible. It is maybe possible. We're kind of a bit crazy, but we're trying to get hints, get clues, get a sense of how the ending of the Stormlight Archive will play out. Now, if you're not convinced, go back and watch that first video. I guarantee you I'll get you at least a little bit curious, and come back here and join me today. In today's episode, we are looking at the origins of the Death Rattles themselves, where they came from, why they were being harvested, and a few other things. Just stick around, you'll see. Okay guys, spoiler warning for this video. I would suggest you're completely up to date on the Stormlight Archive, and from here on out it's pretty much going to be that way. Okay, so at the end of The Way of Kings, we see that Szeth gets totally duped by our boy Taravangian and finds his murder evil hospital in Kharbranth. At this murder evil hospital, we see that Taravangian has a whole crew of people draining the blood of what seems to be random citizens. Now, judging by the annotations of the Silent Gatherers are the group doing this for Taravangian, we see that the professions of these people seem to be quite obscure. It seems that they've been chosen at random. Perhaps it was part of Taravangian's grand vision, but as far as we can tell, these people are picked at random, and perhaps they're people who it would work very fine that they would have died at this point, or nobody would even notice that their death would have occurred, or they just wouldn't question it. So Taravangian and the Silent Gatherers have purposely chose kind of people of little consequence to do their little experiment on. But what is making these people say prophetic things as they die? And we have seen last episode that these things do predict the future. The one simple answer to that is Moelach. And Moelach is one of the 9 unmade. What the unmade are very, very ancient spren that Odium corrupted long ago and kind of uses them as his minions. They have appeared throughout the series. Some of the notable unmade that you would remember is Reshafir, who was in Urithiru, who Shallan actually ended up battling, and who was kind of creating all these copies and duplicate events. And we've also met Sia Anat, who has had her whole plotline kind of really enhanced, and you've seen how she has almost gone against Odium throughout Rhythm of War. So we have seen the unmade in little bits and pieces throughout the series, but we haven't fully understood or fully explored them unless you're a diehard fan who's gone right deep into the lore. To really simplify it, some are kind of entities, some are more forces of nature. They all take on quite abstract formats on Roshar. Now, Moelach is one that we have not seen, and as far as I am concerned, and as far as my research has told me, not really anybody has seen. We have only kind of seen his effects. In Oathbringer, in some of the epigraphs, we actually get notes from Hessi, and Hessi is a scholar on Roshar. Her life's work is to study the unmade, and throughout these epigraphs we get lots of notes and lots of elaboration on who the unmade are. And in particular, she elaborates on Moelach and his powers. Hessi elaborates that Moelach does grant people visions of the future. There is a kind of stigma about looking into the future on Roshar, so she comes to the conclusion that Moelach is one with the enemy or one with Odium. She also says that it usually happens in a transition point for people, not all the time, but mostly when they're on their way to the Tranquillian Halls. So it seems like this also confirms that death rattles are happening as a person is transitioning out of the living world into the beyond. So they are seeing something in this random transition period and verbalizing it as they pass on. Now, what I found quite interesting was this quote, which I won't read. It will be on the screen if you'd like to pause. But this quote from Hessi, where she basically states that everything that these people are saying in their death rattles is reliant on Moelach being within the vicinity, or at least close to them. That confirms that Moelach was in the area of Kharbranth during the Way of Kings, but as we see the series progress, we see that Taravangian gets updates from his crew and they're like, we're not getting as many Death Rattles. And he even says to himself, Moelach is moving westward. So we know that Moelach is on a path of his own. It seems that he's headed to the Pure Lake, but his motives are unsure. So it's hard to say whether Taravangian was in cahoots with Moelach or if Odium put him in front of Taravangian for a reason. We just know that he happened to be in the area of Kharbranth at the start of Way of Kings, and Taravangian really made the most of that in his sick, messed up way. It is later confirmed in Oathbringer that Moelach has actually settled in the Horneater Peaks, and the leader of the Silent Gatherers, Josha, is on his way to find more Death Rattles. We pretty much have confirmation that the Horneater Peaks are a way to travel throughout the Cosmere. What Moelach is up to is still unknown. So why was he doing this? Well, Taravangian even says to himself, I need to sacrifice these lives to get glimpses of the future to protect the greater good. And we have seen that this has been Taravangian's goal from the start. He's using every little bit of information he can to save, the people he believes are worth saving. Taravangian's kind of crazy, but in his mind, he's saving the world with these. But in our mind, we're predicting the ending, which is way cooler, so step aside, Tarav. Now, Taravangian wasn't the only person who was aware of Moelach. You know who else was aware of Moelach? Jezrien, the king of the Heralds. Jezrien, the king of the Heralds, is actually a drunkard outside Kholinar that Dalinar interacts with quite frequently. He's known under the alias of Ahu, and he's always saying to Dalinar, have you seen me? Have you seen me? Because there's an actual statue of Jezrien around, and Dalinar just thinks he's some crazy guy, which I think is brilliant. But this is a very interesting quote that he says to Dalinar when the boys are having a drink together. Which one got to you, little child? Ahu asked. The Black Fisher? The Spawning Mother? The Faceless? Moelach is close. I can hear his wheezing, his scratching, his scraping at time like a rat breaking through walls. He knows. He can get a sense of what Moelach is doing. He can feel him scratching, scraping at time. So he's clawing into the future to get these visions. He's a force that can break through time itself to bring things from the future in an abstract way, and it hits people as they are dying. Now he mentions the kind of nicknames for other Unmade on Rosha, and it shows that they are known to corrupt people. So Moelach getting in the heads of people is not a special thing in terms of the Unmade. It seems to be a common occurrence across Rosha. So now we have established where these Death Rattles are coming from and why Taravangian was so interested in getting them. Now, let's check some of them out. I think it's about time. In this episode, I want to focus on the Death Rattles that are directly referring to the Unmade, which shows how much they're going to play into the future of the series, especially now that Taravangian is Odium himself and will have direct contact with all of them. Let me no longer hurt. Let me no longer weep. Diagonathus, the Black Fisher holds my sorrow and consumes it. Resh-Shafir, the Midnight Mother, giving birth to abominations with her essence so dark, so terrible, so consuming. She is here. She watches me die. Now this one is referring to Resh-Shafir. We've seen her in Eritharu, where she is multiplying, she is copying, creating replicas of events and things happening. So this description matches up very well. The Black Fisher we have not interacted with so much, but it gives me a sense that this Unmade has a part to play in our future. So these just show that the Unmade are playing further into the story. They are impacting events in the future, and perhaps we can come back to these and see specific ways they might be approaching. Now, speaking of Jezrien and the Heralds, we actually have a few Death Rattles directly referring to the Heralds themselves, and I want to look at a few of those today as well. A woman sits and scratches out her own eyes, daughter of kings and winds, the Vandal. Now this one is referring to Shalash the Herald, who we have seen in the Way of Kings interlude, destroying paintings of herself. So much evidence of this throughout the series. Shalash always shows up and she's trying to destroy depictions of herself. More information on Shalash on my entire character breakdown video. Let's move on to another one. The burdens of the nine become mine. Why must I carry the madness of them all? Oh Almighty, release me. Now this is from the perspective of Talonel, the Herald of War, who has just been absolutely carrying Rosha on his shoulders, who was holding the Oath Pact together on braids, being tortured for years upon years, for 4,000 years. So when the 9 Heralds abandoned him in the original prelude to the Stormlight Archive, he was there holding the Oath Pact together by himself, burning and being tortured in braids. If he's talking about being tortured in braids, do these Death Rattles also take us back in time? Well, yes, I believe they do. And when we look at these in the future, it's very important to distinguish, are these looking into prophecies of the future, or are these enlightening us about aspects of characters past? Now, that is the main crux of the episode today. I promised you the gap between episode 2 and 3 will be much smaller. I've had a lot on my plate this week, and I can't wait to give you some more mind-blowing ones. I really wanted to add them in this one, but let's just pace it. Let's just pace it and leave some of the big stuff coming up. In the next episode, we are going to look at events that I think will close out Book 5 of the Stormlight Archive, and we're going to look at a few key moments that have been confirmed to have happened in Words of Radiance and in Rhythm of War. And if you'd like to hear me talk about Stormlight in the long form, I was just on the podcast chatting with Nuts, where we spoke about Stormlight and many other things fantasy for over 2.5 hours. Please go check that out if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching episode 2 of this Stormlight series. I'm having so much fun with it. I hope you are enjoying it as well. I'll see you all in the next video.